Good afternoon, my friends. This is the Grimflayer. Hope you're doing very well today. And we are debuting yet another new archetype on this channel. This is Jund Shadow. This archetype was put back on the map and was also kind of restructured in the wake of the printing of Scourge the Skyclaves, which of course has been out for several weeks now, so this is not a brand new archetype, but it's new to the channel, and this will be my first time playing it in the league you're about to see, so I'm really excited about that. I had a ton of fun piloting Rakdos Shadow the first time out, and we're going to talk before we get into the league about the specific decisions we made on the list, as well as more broadly why Jund over Rakdos. What are the pros and the cons of adding that green splash to an otherwise very tuned and very coherent list? Is the green splash worth it? Well, we'll talk about it, and then we'll find out. This is a donation league brought to us by Alan Lambert, one of the very best Patreon supporters of the Veil tier, very generous, and has been of the Veil for quite some time. Alan's a great guy, and I always enjoy the lists that he brings to the table, or I should say the archetypes that he brings to the table, and then he and I always work together to bring you a tuned 75, one that basically satisfies us both, and we've done that again here. So thanks, Alan. Big shout out to you, my friend. Thank you, of course, to all Patreon supporters who do make this content possible. Thank you for watching, and let's talk a little bit about this Jund Shadow 75. Okay, so what does the color green bring to the already very streamlined, very powerful Rakdos Shadow, kind of aggressive, disruptive archetype? And make no mistake, the splash is not free. In fact, at the time of this recording, Rakdos Shadow, according to Goldfish, is third in the meta, and Jund Shadow is more like 7th or 8th, something like that. So obviously both decks strong, both decks very playable, but the third color, even though we can leverage a lot of the traditional downfalls of that third color to our advantage, is still not free, and arguably may not be better than straight Rakdos, but I'm pretty optimistic about a lot of what's going on here. The first thing that my mind's eye naturally hones in on are these Tarmogoyfs. They're dead center of the list, they are glaringly green in a sea of red and black, and the card quality. The card quality of Tarmogoyf is very high, especially compared to the kind of threats that round out the threat suite in Rakdos, which is usually either Soulscar Mage or Bomat Courier, both of which are strong cards, both of which fit the ethos of the deck really well, and both of which have a lot of synergy with what else is going on. However, in terms of being a must-answer threat, in terms of being a generically powerful standalone threat, in terms of their card quality, Tarmogoyf wins, right? And Goyf also gives you something of a different dimension. Like, Goyf rewards you for playing more of a mid-range game, and it's not as aggressive, because it can't come down turn one, maybe, doesn't have the potential upsides of the other two, but it gives you a different dimension and rewards you for almost no matter what you're doing. I think it is a lower variance card than anything else we just mentioned, and I do like that a lot. And any viewer of the channel knows that Tarmogoyf still a strong card in Modern, despite any other thing that might be going on with the mid-range or the BGX archetype. Tarmogoyf still a strong card in Modern. Speaking of card quality, and speaking of more mid-rangey play patterns, and speaking of what green brings to the table, 2 copies of Wrenn and Six. Now, this really solidifies the card quality argument, in my opinion, because in Rakdos, instead of Wrenn and Six, you're looking at very different cards, kind of rounding out the non-creature spell suite. Sometimes it's a reactive card like Apostle's Blessing. People have played like Knight's Whisper. Sometimes people will play another copy of Seal of Fire, or another discard spell, or another removal spell, or what have you, and all of that stuff, again, it's synergistic, it's fine, but it does not hold a candle to Wrenn and Six in terms of card quality, that I can tell you. This is the most busted card you're going to see in mid-range or mid-range adjacent decks, period. That's what Wrenn and Six is, and I have to say that I have always been a big fan of just kind of squeezing a Wrenn or two into archetypes that don't quote-unquote need it. I've done that to great success in my relatively limited time playing Gruul or Ponza, and I really like the look of doing it here. We'll see how Wrenn performs for us, of course, but I'm pretty high on that card as far as card quality goes, and again, as far as fitting everything goes. You know, repeatedly looping fetch lands is a great way to bury the opponent in value. It is also a great way to enable Shadow to enable Scourge. Wrenn can even ping to enable Scourge, right? These are a lot of things that you wouldn't normally prioritize that highly when evaluating a card like Wrenn, but it does a whole lot in this shell, as far as I can see. The land base, as I kind of hinted at, we definitely can make the pain of the third color work to our advantage to a great degree, and we also get to play an on-color fetch land in the, Canopy land in the form of Nurturing Peatland ×2, which, by the way, another great reason to include Wrenn and Six. But we have 10 fetch lands, we have 5 shock lands, we have 2 peatlands, and we have a swamp and a mountain. So as far as the weaknesses go, sometimes you do need to manage your life total a little bit more conservatively. You won't be able to do that relative to Rakdos. Nominally, we're a little bit more vulnerable to Blood Moon, but in practice, I think it's not entirely that different from Rakdos, but, nominally, certainly at least a bit more vulnerable to Blood Moon, and we also cannot really afford a card like Agadeem's Awakening / Agadeem the Undercrypt. At least most people don't choose to play it, and we haven't done so here. So onto the sideboard is maybe where the green splash really takes off a little bit more. We have 2 copies of Assassin's Trophy. The BG removal in general is a great reason to splash green into a Rakdos deck. Red and black are a very powerful color pair, but they lack modern playable answers to unconventional permanents that have already hit the battlefield. That is a weakness of the color pairing. Assassin's Trophy, with its catch-all nature, shores that up brilliantly, and also it has just never been better positioned than it is right now, because big mana's still around, and creature decks are very, very much still around, and yes, there are more efficient ways to kill small creatures, but Trophy still helps you do that. And more than anything else, the MDFC combo decks are still around, and this is a 2-mana Stone Rain effect against those. You love to see that. Veil of Summer ×2, a card that should be banned, but a card that we are leveraging nevertheless. We all know why this is here, and it's just another incentive to play green, I suppose. And the final incentive to play green is in the form of these kind of disenchant plus effects. We've opted for 1 copy each of Seal of Primordium from Planar Chaos and Deglamer from Morning Tide. Definitely some ones you don't see every day, especially in mid-range decks, but Seal of Primordium is a disenchant effect that you can loop with Lurrus and is also an enchantment itself, therefore it grows the Goyf. So lots and lots of synergy with this very innocuous-looking card. And Deglamer is not as synergistic in either of the aforementioned ways, but the shuffle effect rather than the destroy effect is very, very impactful right now. It's the same reason I registered a Revoke Existence in my recent Deadguy Ale sideboard. You're looking at Heliod, Klothys, cards like this that cannot be destroyed. Wormcoil Engine never really goes away. They cannot be destroyed at all, or if they can be destroyed, it's not a profitable exchange. Here, we just get to shuffle it back into the library. There are some other reasons to do it as well, but that's definitely a nice one. And that is basically the long and short of what green is bringing to the table. So we'll have to see how that performs. Just to do a quick drive-by of the rest of the list, we have a main deck Nihil Spellbomb and 1 main deck Seal of Fire as well. The list Alan and I came to had 61 cards main deck with a second seal. I brought it to the faithful denizens of my Discord server. The vote was to keep Spellbomb and cut a Seal of Fire. That's what we have done. We'll see how that plays out. Obviously, 4 Bauble alongside Lurrus is non-negotiable. Shadow, Scourge, and Swiftspear round out the threats, as well as a 1 of Kroxa, which I think is just kind of perfect for the list in the same way that Wrenn is. Yes, you have a lower ceiling with the card in that it doesn't help you kind of double and triple down on exactly what your progression is doing all of the time, but it is such a high card quality and is broadly on plan enough that I really, really like it here. Obviously, no basic forest or anything to worry about not being able to escape him off of. 4 Thoughtseize, 2 Inquisition, 3 Fatal Push, 1 Dismember. I think the initial list we started looking at and tweaking from did not have a Dismember. Alan was very high on bringing Dismember into the fold, especially main deck. We managed to do that, and I agree with him. I think the card is... I think you can't really have too much creature removal right now, and obviously Dismember is on plan. 2 copies of TBR, which is stock, 4 Bolt, and we did mention the 1 Seal of Fire. Cleansing Wildfire. One of the lists that we looked at did not play any, and Alan and I were both not fans of that. We initially started looking at 3 or maybe even 4 Wildfire, but when I decided to make the decision to bring trophies in, that kind of reduces the need for us to lean so much into Wildfire, right? So between Wildfire and Trophy, we can break up MDFC combo mana bases or Tron mana bases or whatever it's going to be quite well. So 2 of those, 2 copies of Boil, 2 more Spellbomb for a total of 3. The card is nutty right now, and even better in a Lurrus shell, and 2 copies of Kozilek's Return, which is a card, much like some of the other ones that we've been playing, that seems to be just about better positioned than it has ever been. Lots of Auric champions going around in the format, and even if you don't have protection effects to worry about, a Pyroclasm is a good fit in a prowess adjacent shadow style deck just like this one. So anyway, thanks once again to Alan. That is our list. Let us know what you think about it in the comments section, and without any further ado, let's play some Jund Shadow in Modern. And here we are in round 1, my friends, winning the die roll with good old Jund Shadow. I say good old as though I've played it before. Good new Jund Shadow, new to me. And on the play, we will absolutely keep this very powerful looking hand, and we are in some kind of a mirror match, most likely, although more and more decks seem to be playing Lurrus these days, or maybe it's better to say more and more Lurrus decks are seeing play in the meta. In either case, this is looking really, really good to me. And we're going to open on the Inquisition. I think the Wrenn and Six sends the signal to our hand to play more of an interactive game rather than trying to race the opponent down. And I think in general, in the blind, you can lead on Inquisition over Swifty most of the time. We appear to be against a Rakdos, so they have Push, Bolt, Soulscar Mage. Pretty easy take here of Soulscar Mage, if you ask me. We want to remove all their threats, generally speaking, and even though they only have 1 and we could dismember it, we also can, again, really leverage Wrenn and Six quite well under these circumstances, so that is what we're doing. Obviously need green, and I think we want a second black with this hand, although sometimes we'll fetch Stomping Ground in that spot, I'm sure. Alright, and we've got all kinds of threats to deploy. Is opponent thinking about, like, double bolting the Wrenn or something? That'd be obviously fantastic for us. Nah, Thoughtseize, okay. Good for them. But again, it means we can continue trading off resources like this and taking over with Wrenn. Especially if we draw Thoughtseize right back. Nice. How are we supposed to sequence here, though? I think we might be actually playing no threats. So why don't we just fetch a basic land, put Lurrus into our hand? I think that's pretty good. We give up Thoughtseizing for a turn. I think that's actually going to be our play. There is no need to Thoughtseize quite yet. Another part of me would definitely not mind Thoughtseizing and just holding up Dismember there. But I like this too. We draw TBR. So one option is to go Lurrus Swifty before it gets discarded out. I don't think that's necessary. I think we're supposed to Thoughtseize here. Double push, double bolt, huh? Interesting. If we had a way to more reliably pressure them, I would value taking the pushes. As it is, I'm kind of leaning toward taking a bolts. I'm going to take the push, nevertheless. I would love to kind of spook the OP into double bolting the Wrenn. I think we're supposed to just continue doing nothing here. Got the kiddos running around upstairs. Hopefully that's not too loud for you, my friends. Lurrus goes into OP's hand. And they found Bauble. We'll take it easy with our life total here. There's no need to risk getting cheesed out when we have the grinding power of Wrenn. Opponent will bauble us on our upkeep, knowing that we're drawing just another fetch land, huh? Alright, I guess it's time to deploy some threats. I wish we had another discard spell or something, but this is still pretty good. Alright, I'm going to pick this back up. Run out a mountain, I think, and use it to cast Lurrus and bring back Swifty. Alternatively, we could just... The problem is Scourge dies to the opponent's lightning bolt. I wish if we had naturally drawn a Swiftspear, I'd be very, very happy with this line. As is, I do think I'm committing my Lurrus to Death by Lightning Bolt here. We're trying to give the opponent too much to think about on one turn, with Wrenn about to ult, with Swifty pressuring their life total so we can get our Scourge down, and all the rest. Or, I mean, we could also just keep doing nothing here. What do we think about doing nothing for one turn? Sorry I'm tanking so long early on here. Nah, I'm going to go for it. We'll see where the bolt goes here. If they value this 1 point of life because they know about the Scourge of the Skyclaves or not. They do bolt there. You know, I thought they might. My thinking was if they bolt here, I'm supposed to play the Shadow again, giving them too many things, hopefully, to answer on just one turn. And if they didn't bolt there, maybe we hold up Dismember. We'll see how this all goes. Obviously, ulting Wrenn is definitely live. OP, I guess, rewarded for our play because they draw Swifty, which lets them just pretty happily trade off with the board and then attack Wrenn down. That's something we really wanted to fade. Wrenn's still done a ton of work for us here. This is a little unfortunate. And we're still definitely not out of it, but if they had not been able to do everything here, we would have had the potential for a much more commanding position. And also, if we could do something besides, you know, draw fetch lands off the top, that would probably be helpful too. So we get punished for our play. I don't know if we'd even want this kicker if we could afford it. I mean, it's a little risky, a little high reward, but we're one off of it anyway. Because we're so close, maybe we are supposed to just kind of go for it, but I don't think so. I think we're very likely to lose to burn if we take that line. So we've just got to hope they have another push, really? Or a Dismember, maybe? Dismember wouldn't... Oh, they have Cling to Dust. Okay, sure. Cling to gain 3, and then they can untap and Cling to gain another 3 and kill our Scourge outright. Which would be a little bit rough. Okay, no block. Feel obligated to wait for the Lurrus with this Dismember. Yeah, so again, I think we got max punished by them having a Swifty that seems to have just come off the top, although they could have been slow rolling it a turn or two. Honestly, I feel we just have flooded too much, and that's really the reason we're likely to lose here. But certainly a couple alternative sequencing patterns were available to us. Opponent going to Cling in response here, it seems. There's not really anything we could do about it. I guess they're maybe worried about us just bolting in response, but... Yep. Okay, so... Opponent having the answers for everything at the moment, anyway. We draw a Shadow, which is really good, actually. I guess we just start trying to ping him back down a little bit here. They know about this Catacomb, so that's the one we'll run out. Alright, now's the part where I'm inexperienced. You know what I mean? Like with managing the Shadow's exact life total. Putting it to 7/7 seems good. Putting ourselves to 6, a little less good. But we've already seen 2 bolts, right? We can't be that scared of... oh boy, Kroxa, really? Oh my goodness. Okay, OP. This is rough. Alright, I think we have to play it fast and loose with our life total here. Maybe this opens up a way to steal the game with TBR, I'm not certain. We'll have to see what they do here. Oh, there's good old Lurrus. Think paying the 2 life is correct here. But again, I'm very unfamiliar with navigating these Shadow situations. Might as well go to 1, right? We're all in. And TBR should get it. Opponent gonna bauble us. Oh, we draw another TBR. Cool. Let's just cast the other one just to show them that we already had it, right? Okay, cool. Well, I don't know how representative that was, but I guess there are a lot of situations where games will play out like that, where one player seems to have command, which was us with the Wrenn. The other player is able to flip the table because both decks are so efficient, and there is such a variance in the exact nature of the efficient 1-mana cards that they play. And then finally, you can always cheese the game with Shadow plus TBR. I suppose that is what happened there. So, let's see here. I'm thinking Veil of Summer, Assassin's Trophy, Nihil Spellbomb is the package we want, but 3 Spellbombs could be a little clunky on the draw. Remember, we do have 1 main deck. There is potentially scope for cards like Kozilek's Return or Cleansing Wildfire, but it just does not seem like we're going to have enough that we want to side out. So, what if we cut 1 TBR, put the other one in the maybe board category along with a 3rd Spellbomb? Wrenn was good there. I think I might go down to 1 on the draw, though. It's like good in that exact situation. Turn 2 on the play with neither player having a really aggressive start. And that's probably about the long and short of it. I think I'm supposed to cut another couple discard spells. Might as well be Thoughtseizes on the draw, I think. And playing with 4 is about correct. I think all our threats should stay in. You could argue maybe cut a Swifty. This is just something that's a little bit beyond my expertise, so why don't we cut these 2 maybe board cards, the 2nd TBR, the 3rd Spellbomb, and run it like this. I think this is at least quite reasonable, but you, my friends, as always, can let me know what you think. Lurrus of the Dream Den. Alright, our hand is fine. I'm going to keep it. There's a couple things I don't like about it, but not enough to mulligan, that's for sure. Opponent laying out all those baubles nice and early. Using the first one to scry to the bottom. No discard spells, so that's good. And now they'll know that we have a Overgrown Tomb coming off the top. So if we want to use our own Bauble to scry, then we have to be willing to fetch for Stomping Ground to hold up Veil of Summer, which kind of bluffs Veil, honestly. So I think I would rather just shock this in, play out the Bauble, and scry on the opponent's upkeep. They're about to draw Kolaghan's Command, good to know about that. And I'm really fortunate to have drawn the 2nd land naturally off the top, because now we can hold up Veil for the foreseeable future, right? While still, like, deploying Spellbomb next turn, for example. Alright, Seal of Fire. I'm just going to dismember this. I don't want to time walk myself here. Sometimes Dismember doesn't let you pay if you click the land first the wrong way like I did there. Okay. So let's see what we can do here. Swifty of our own and a Fatal Push. You know, I think I'm supposed to run out Spellbomb here. There's no way we can protect the Swifty coherently with our spells if they do decide to go for the seal and test us. And Spellbomb is another really good thing here in terms of it being able to make sure that we're holding up Veil but also not wasting our turn. Finally, their graveyard is filled with really good Spellbomb targets. They do have Kolaghan's Command to compete over Spellbomb, but ultimately I wouldn't be that upset with that, I guess. And they just put Lurrus into hand. Alright, we're going for the Spellbomb cantrip here. Want to see more cards, including a discard spell for that Lurrus, of course. Would be great. Trophy. Sure. So now we're going to go Swifty Spellbomb. Hope they don't Seal of Fire check us here. They do. Okay. Wonder if I attacked the lands differently, like if we were holding up Stomping Ground, maybe? Would have bluffed Bolt better while also still letting us hold up Veil of Summer. In any case, I don't think it's that big a deal. Alright, so we Spellbomb away their Seal of Fire. Hopefully they don't have anything to loop this turn, and then we can untap and get rid of the Lurrus one way or the other. No Bauble. Soul Guide Lantern. Okay. Scourge of the Skyclaves. Big problem for us is that K command. I still just kind of want to draw a discard spell, right? Because they're going to be able to buy back Lurrus. That said, we've got to deal with them, right? So I guess the line is... You still want to hold up Veil. I'm going to hold it up with Stomping Ground because it bluffs Bolt. And we're going to get this Shadow down. And surely if they haven't had a discard spell this whole time, they will have a Fatal Push or something that the Veil can blow out. Well, and continuing to make all those land drops. And that is good with some of the clunk but powerful clunk they have. Kolaghan's Command is a relatively clunky card in these mirrors. It's not certainly just pure clunk, right? But hope you understand the point. Draw another Scourge. Okay, well, here comes that Shadow. Nothing, huh? I think we have two pretty decent options here. I really expected something to happen. I think one really decent option is just to finally say we're playing both Scourges. Another option is to continue holding up Veil, but we have held up Veil literally the entire game. It hasn't paid off yet. If we had a way to generate Revolt, I would be happy holding up Veil and push. Putting Lurrus into hand, maybe. But let's at least play one Scourge, see if they do anything, which I don't think they will. Yeah, we're just going all in on the board here. Hopefully they don't have a way to blow this out. Hopefully they don't have a way to, like, push on the end step. That would be ridiculous. Okay, Cling to Dust is really scary, but thankfully our Spellbombs have kept the graveyard pretty clear. But, oh boy, is Cling brutal against us. Okay, we're going to lose the Veil. I think we're supposed to keep push to try to just kill whatever they've got when we do get to untap. Opponent did get rid of our Swifty and our Bauble so far, so our own Lurrus can still buy back those spell bombs for now. I wonder if we're supposed to side out a Scourge or two in this matchup. If there is a game 3 on the play, we want to be more threat-oriented anyway, right? But you could, in theory, if you think Scourge is a liability, play another Spellbomb, another Wrenn, maybe both. So if opponent cracks Canyon into any 1-mana spell, they can cling again, which would shrink our Scourges. Ooh, Seal of Fire. They might. I guess they just have lethal. They're pointing it upstairs. That would have been a good way to control the board as well, in the face of alongside Cling maybe. But so I guess they just have Lightning Bolts as their last card, eh? Sure enough. Okay, so they kind of cheese us out, kind of like we cheese them out in game 1. Fair enough. Super interesting mirrors, and I don't know, I think I'm going to follow my instinct and observation there and cut a Scourge. I still think Veil of Summer has got to be great here, although it wasn't last game and they also now know about it. Something to mention, but I think I just want a third Spellbomb more than almost any other maybe board card on the basis of that. So, like, putting a Scourge up to the side, bringing in a Spellbomb in 2 ways that hedges us against getting cheesed out by Cling to Dust and losing threats to it. Otherwise, I think I'm running it back. I think about 1 Wrenn is correct. I think I'm leaving in the Veils. We have our 1 Wrenn on the play. I will definitely keep. Ooh, would have loved to see a mulling opponent with our really balanced hand. I think we are supposed to just slam the Swifty, grow it with a Bauble, and get out on the front foot here. Okay, OP just drawing Blackcleave Cliffs. They'll go Cliffs into Bauble. That's interesting. You don't see that sequencing every day. Usually there's incentives to Scry or to Prowess or whatever. But they just go for a main phase Fatal Push, fearing the Veil of Summer. And now we get to stick Wrenn, which with our 2-lander so far is great. We've drawn Inquisition. You know, I like that a lot, but I'm still going to stick the Wrenn. All else being equal, I guess we're kind of always picking up Bloodstained Mire because there's no basic forest in the deck. And you always want at least the option to fetch a basic, I guess. OP getting Seal of Fire, Soul Guide Lantern down. Soul Guide will tag a non-land because we have another one in hand and ends up tagging Bauble. Alright, so right now we don't really have anything all that exciting to do. Scourge is okay. But their progression has been disturbingly painless. think this is the sort of game state where I'm like okay inquisitioning, but again, their seal covers our Swifty real well, and we really just haven't drawn enough bolts. Lightning Bolt at so many stages would be such a good interactive card or enabler, right? That's kind of been the missing key to some of our otherwise good hands. But anyway, I think I'm just going to keep ticking up with Wrenn. You could start pinging with Wrenn too, but I'm not going to just yet. I'm going to continue guaranteeing these land drops, and I'm just going to put Lurrus into hand. We've got some sweet Odyssey basics we're running, one each of a mountain and a swamp, and here's the mountain. I'm a huge fan, very shadowy. Also prowessy a little bit, right? Swifty always reminds me of these, like, cold mountain highlands. And I think we cover all our bases really well with this mountain. What do you think? What do you think? OP tank in here a little bit. This has been a really interactive, fun, skill testing, and intriguing round one. I hope you agree. And I hope we win it. Is this just Lurrus in hand? It is. Alright, now I'm really happy to just fire off the Inquisition. Okay, Kroxa, we could lead on Kroxa as well. We still don't have, like, a good way to protect Swifty. So I'm not going to play her. I'm just going to start with Inquisition. Now we're going to start with Kroxa. Kroxa's a pretty good draw here. And we'll have them picked without information that Lurrus is about to get discarded out. They pitch a Cling. It's still good for us, but obviously pretty scary. We want to draw Spellbomb. And once again, they have the Lurrus and the K command. It's really rough. But we still kind of have to take the Lurrus here. We need a Spellbomb. Need a Spellbomb real quick. No need to shock there, in my opinion. Double Swifty, huh? I want to make them use the K command before I deploy Lurrus. You know, if we had just, like, ticked up without picking a land back up and then cracked a fetch from our hand and then played Swifty and they had sealed it, maybe we could have escaped Kroxa this turn, or forced them to crack Lantern or something. It's an interesting thought. Do they have another Cling in hand? They do. That's unbelievable. How good that card has become against us. Alright, I'm going to do nothing here. They still have our alting Wrenn to worry about. And yeah, K command will take it down. Makes sense. I guess it's just going to be Lurrus into Bauble here, most likely. Oh no, Lightning Bolt the Wrenn, huh? Okay. Sure. There goes Seal of Fire. Alright. No time like the present to draw a Nihil Spellbomb, right? Will they cling? Oh no, they're going to play a Scourge. Got it. Alright, I'm going to be happy enough to untap and double Swifty before I push. I think. Or, is that even correct? Because, again, we want to escape Kroxa. Yeah, I'm going to push now, which I think will force the opponent into cashing in the Lantern for no value. Or we'll get to escape Kroxa, and that's awesome. Alright, if we receive priority, I guess, yeah, we don't. Fair enough. Triple Swifty. I, again, just literally wish we had the card Lightning Bolt. Yeah, I think we're going shields down on our trophy. Or are we? I'm still mindful of the power, potentially, of this kicker. Alright, let's just play the triple Swifty game for a minute. Imagine, though, just the power of simply bolting there, right? Okay, they have another Scourge, and then they will unearth this Scourge. Got it. Priced into trophying one of them. Still hoping to draw Nihil Spellbomb before Lurrus takes over, or something to that effect. Alright, so we can now kick our own Scourge. Don't know if I'm supposed to. Don't think I am. I think I'm just going to deploy it normally. Buy back the Swifty they block here. And conceal info with this last fetch land in hand, sadly. Alright, well, our board is extra wide. We obviously just cannot answer certain things now, though, including the Lurrus into Scourge play they're about to make. Dang, they really rip the 5th land, huh? Okay, we are in some trouble still, my friends. Very much so. Need a heater off the top. We get Nurturing Peatland. Into Wooded Foothills. Come on. Oh, no. Alrighty. Well. Guess we're supposed to attack here and just buy it back, right? They'll be able to do the same, of course, but... I continue to think concealing information makes the most sense here with these fetch lands. I don't know who's favored in these mirrors. The presence of Cling to Dust feels like a big win for the opponent here. We haven't even drawn Tarmogoyf, and I don't think Tarmogoyf is necessarily a mirror breaker here. Veil of Summer could be, but has not been. Fatal Push is a good Magic card. Alright, so opponent hasn't cracked this fetch yet, which means we can respond by pushing the Lurrus when they go to cling our Scourge, right? So let's attack here. Alright, they're not going to do that. Fair enough. I'm going to let them resolve this cling before I push. Just to make sure they don't have anything else to do, basically. Like a K command while they were still untapped or whatever. Alright, down goes Lurrus, which means now we can consider more aggressive lines because they can't infinitely loop these Scourges, and we can in theory, but they have the Cling redraws. We just need to get really lucky here, basically. But they begin by cracking Canyon, which is a really good sign for us. I have not been thinking about the kicker as much as maybe I could over the last couple turns. But again, with their life-linking blocker, I didn't really see a way through, but hopefully I didn't miss that between the prowess triggers and the bringing it back with kicker, but anyway, hopefully the opponent just concedes here, because this is really skill testing for me. Or we just draw like Lightning Bolt or Fatal Push or something amazing off the top. Seal of Fire. Never thought these mirrors could take this long. And yeah, yes, I am behind on the clock, but not by an enormous amount. I would even love to draw a Spellbomb, just simply because obviously they're getting near infinite draws off of these Clings. And now they're a little Cling flooded. It's still really good for them, of course. They're never bad, they're never dead, but Then they just concede. Wow. Okay. That was intense, my friends. That was really, really intense. Off the top, we were just drawing a fetch land and then a Veil of Summer. I don't know. If opponent had just stuck in the game, we'd need to see if we had lethal. Anyway, that's enough thinking for one match. And I'm sure there were some debatable lines here. This is my first time ever playing this deck in a league, period, and also this mirror. And that was super intense. I hope we did well. But either way, we at least did well enough to start out 1-0 in this league with Jund Shadow. That was really fun, my friends. Hope the other leagues, though, or excuse me, the other matches are a wee bit shorter than this one was. Round 2 on the draw. With a really nice balanced keep. Yeah, you can't throw this one back in any match, probably, but certainly not in a blind game one. Definite keep. 2 lands, Swifty, Bolts, Spellbomb, Thoughtseize. We're doing a little bit of everything, and we're against another Mishra's Bauble deck, but they're not a Lurrus deck. Interesting. I guess we're against another pseudo-mirror. This looks like Grixis Shadow to me, although the Flooded Strand is not a typical land, but maybe it's just what they have. Okay, we draw Inquisition. I'm going to snap that one off, I guess. But we're sitting on a lot of really good tools against the matchup. They have Shadow, Dismember, Double Push. Just going to take away the threat and make sure that I can keep the graveyard clear in case of Angler. Not going to worry so much about Swifty. I'm going to maybe try to draw some lands and get toward a state where we are either looping with Lurrus or escaping Kroxa, maybe both. Alright, they ripped Thought Scour off the top, so as long as they have not blindly ripped Thought Scour into Angler, we're going to be fine. Alright, they didn't. That's good. So I think I actually like just simply playing out the Spellbomb here. And cracking it, I guess, right now is just as good as any time. I don't want them to stick an Angler. They still have a Steam Vents in hand, so there's just 2 unknowns once they take their draw. And we found Shadow and Dismember, so now we can beat an Angler anyway. We found another Thoughtseize, so missing the 3rd land hurts, but this is still a really good spot. I'm just double Thoughtseizing here. Playing Kroxa would be okay, and they've just drawn, wow. Yeah, Dismember, and it's just the stuff we already knew about. I guess I am still double Thoughtseizing. I almost don't want to, though. I almost want to wait just a tad, but having missed a land drop, we also don't want to time walk ourselves. And we're going to clear the way for our Shadow to stick. That's going to be the idea here. Between Kroxa and Swifty, we'll get the push out of their hand, hopefully. Or just draw another Thoughtseize. Sure. These are really good times to be ripping these off the top, if indeed we're going to rip them off the top. Are they going to stub, or do they have like a Snapcaster that they drew? They do have a Snap. Sure. All right. I think I'm just going to bolt the Snap here, just on the off chance that they play Kolaghan's Command specifically. No, I'm sorry. I just completely misspoke and also probably misplayed. The idea went into my head of like, Snap's not that bad unless maybe they can loop it with a K command. And then I was like, well, let's kill it now, so they don't. But of course, that's how you play around Snap Cryptic command loop, so I conflated the two in my head. My mistake, my friends, but bolting that thing's fine anyway. I'm trying to see if they only have one Steam Vents, which I think is correct. Yeah, so their one unknown is in their hand, and we have drawn Shadow. Alright, I will begin with Kroxa. Excuse me, we've drawn the third land, and we can now therefore play Shadow or Swifty. Whatever we like. I think playing Swifty is correct here. Because it's got a pretty good chance of ending the game in a hurry, and also if they rip removal off the top, we want Shadow to be the last thing standing. Shadow would also not quite have been lethal there, because we hadn't done this 1 damage yet. Alright, I think now playing Shadow's fine, putting Lurrus into hand is also fine, but let's just get him dead. Okay, pretty easy win. We got pretty lucky. We drew triple... I believe we drew triple Thoughtseize in the first few turns after opening on just Inquisition. Maybe we had another Thoughtseize in the opener too, I don't remember. Either way, our discard spells came at the perfect time against a flooding opponent. I also think that the way we played with Spellbomb was correct, and we're going to want a lot of the same cards here, especially Veil of Summer looking actually much better here because it's going to beat Stubby D as well as the black-based interaction. Once again, like Cleansing Wildfire and Boil even are not the worst possible ideas, but we're not going to play them. There is simply too much else to do. So I think here, unlike in the other one, though, we will side a little bit differently. I'm going to move away entirely from bolts in Seals of Fire. There is definitely scope to leave a few copies of those effects in, but I think I value being threat dense and interaction dense. And I think the final cut should probably be Temur Battle Rage, and honestly maybe both of them should be out, so maybe we can leave in a bolt or a seal. I'll leave in seal because it's loopable and it will grow our Goyfs. Which, yes, they are in the deck. We haven't seen any of them yet, though. It's kind of strange given how many cards we've gone through. I'm resisting the temptation to play Cleansing Wildfire. It's probably not correct. But, you know, we could really basic tax them between Trophy and Wildfire, and, like, Swifty is kind of a medium card here, too. I'm going to play it like this. Well, sadly, we have a very powerful-looking no-lander that we have to send back. I would keep this if it had one fetch land instead of any card, but it does not, and therefore I'm going to mull. All we can hope is that the opponent joins us, and mulling will favor the companion deck if both players do it equally, but they don't. So we're down to 6. I will keep this pretty good-looking 6, although it's not as good as the last one, even if this was our 7. We don't have any kill spells, and that's a problem. I'm going to put Stomping Ground back, which is going to allow us to be a little more aggressive with our life total because we can fetch and shock, and also maybe scry with a Bauble, but it's probably just going to be turn 1 Inquisition. But if they Inquisition away our Inquisition, then maybe we'll want a Bauble scry. Alright, they don't, and we draw a third land, so we definitely want to filter away a 4th land from the top. So here comes our Bauble. Oh man, are they considering a Stubborn Denial on the Bauble? That'd be really funny. In the end, they won't, but I think they were. Nihil Spellbomb? Yeah, I'll draw that. I'll draw that card for sure, so Shock Inquisition. This might get stubbed. Indeed it does. Fair enough. Let's see what they've got here. Big Nightmare scenario is a discard spell now into another stub backing it up. We'll cast a Spellbomb. Okay. Spellbomb Mirror, making some sense to me here. This time, I'm going to cast my own Spellbomb, and I'm going to not feel priced into cracking it right away. But there will be a point where we need to crack it proactively to stop Angler from coming down. And we draw Bloodstained Mire, we draw Veil of Summer, which means we should be holding up Spellbomb via this Overgrown Tomb we're about to fetch. And even though fetching could, in theory, make the opponent think maybe we're representing Veil, it's still correct because we don't want to be caught with us having to fetch and them being able to respond to that while we don't have the mana open, right? So let's just do this and make the opponent beat it one way or the other. There is now a tension between proactively cracking Spellbomb and holding up Veil. But the opponent hasn't had a discard spell yet. Yeah, they Spellbomb now, which is a little scary just because it fills their graveyard so well. And also lets them see another card, right? So they're like... So if they just draw a Shockland, they can shock in an Angler. Whatever, I'm afraid of the Angler. I'm going to Spellbomb now. We've drawn Thoughtseize. Sure, that seems really good under the circumstances. I think we've been rewarded for our sequencing as long as they don't discard us right now. If they don't discard us right now, I'm feeling good. They're going to Bauble themselves. Looks like they've got a fetch land to play. No? Okay. I don't know why you would then activate Bauble there, but maybe they're just hoping to draw Stubby D. Okay, we've drawn Scourge. Let's open on a Thoughtseize here. They do have an Angler. Okay, feeling really good about how we've sequenced. Angler is still kind of the card to beat. Cling to Dust is always annoying. Fatal Push we don't care much about, but awkwardly they have a Lightning Bolt, so we can't just play the Shadow and bait out a Push or a Dismember on it. So I think we're going to take the Angler playing for the long game and then do nothing here. And they don't cling. Interesting. Maybe they think we might be on cling too. I kind of doubt it, but it could be. Could be something that's going around in our minds here. If nothing else happens with their turn and with our draw step, we can always just play Goyf and hold up Veil, which I think is great. Alright, we've drawn Swamp. So now is Scourge better than Goyf? I think so. Could also always put Lurrus into hand, but I'm going to go with this. I mean, maybe Scourge isn't better than Goyf because of their Cling, actually. Probably should have played Goyf, but you know what? If they're clinging their own threat, they're also not drawing another card, and they're shrinking their own graveyard. And in either case, they do just begin with a Fatal Push, so here comes our blowout. Maybe Scourge made that push more urgent. And now they can't respond with Dismember and kill it, which was the original reason I played this, so it's working out okay for us, right? So far. They also now can't Cling on the end step. But what do they have here? I don't think that anything that I can think of. We can just pay for a soft stub if that's... Alright, we'll pay for it. Might as well Fetch and Shock. Alright, all this is fantastic for us. And we've also drawn a... So we got a Stubby D out of their hand, too. I don't think that was necessarily correct from the OP. We've drawn a removal spell now, too, which is nice. Opponent clinging main phase to gain life, and then gonna bolt. Sure, that makes sense. Alright, once again, I find myself wanting to just draw a Spellbomb to clear that stuff out, but we can buy one back with Lurrus over the course of 2 turns if we decide that's the line. Alternatively, we can just play some Goyfs and some Shadows and see where that gets us. But I think I'm supposed to put Lurrus into hand. Yeah, let's put Lurrus into hand. Play this Bauble as well. I should have held up Overgrown Tomb, just to represent another Veil of Summer, spook them about that. Ah, and they draw Thoughtseize. That sucks. So now they're snap Thoughtseizing to get rid of Lurrus. Whereas maybe if we had held up Tomb, they wouldn't have, but I still think they have to. So I guess nothing changes, really. So they have Shadow, Dismember, 1 unknown. Now we need to, like, find a Spellbomb if we're continuing to play a long game just to beat the Cling and make Angler's Rod in hand. Okay, we draw Wrenn and Six. That's definitely a decent grindy card in this situation. I just wish we hadn't also drawn a fetch land for our turn, right? Opponent's just, like, trying to tempo us out with these stubby Ds. It's just not good for them. Yes, I sure will. Now this Goyf, once we fetch and shock, will survive Dismember, which is cool. There is maybe a way they can beat it with Cling plus Dismember, but that just, I think, clears the way for our Shadow. We've drawn Push for their Shadow, which is obviously amazing. So, does pinging them change the clock at all? They'll go from 10 to 9, so not as far as I can tell. Therefore, I'm just going to continue playing the value game. I guess we should be careful not to give them a free Dismember window, so we should fetch with this one first. Opponent still just hasn't fired off that Cling. Or, no, I'm sorry. I guess the Cling's no longer in hand. Alright, we're representing not lethal quite, because the opponent could Dismember to shrink our Shadow, for example, and stay alive. Again, this type of really nitty-gritty, super technical and mathematical, but also kind of creative thinking ways to manage the Shadow's life totals and think of all the possible ways things could happen. Definitely not my strong suit. Just haven't had enough reps in with the card. I think I'm going to push. We could get punished for this by, like, on drawing a Swiftie, for example, but I'm just going to go for it. So they have one unknown in hand plus this Dismember. And they'll just concede to that. All right, that was good enough. We were having Kroxa come off the top. I almost said this. I was like, for example, if we draw Kroxa, because look at our graveyard, we could have both cast and escaped Kroxa all that turn, also while making a land drop and holding up Dismember, or indeed casting it if they had like a Snapcaster to flash in or something. So, yeah, I guess either way we're in a good spot, but doing it there seems fine. And we are 2-0. My friends, which is awesome in general to start out a league on the debut of a new archetype that I've never featured before. It's even cooler that it came against two pseudo mirrors. Very, again, interesting, interactive, skill-testing gameplay. I'm having a lot of fun. Hope you are too, Alan. Hope everybody else out there is as well. Declaring our favorite cat as companion, keeping another really good-looking opening hand. In a blind game one, of course. You never know how it'll line up, but it's hard to imagine this one not being at least a good portion of what we want to see. We do lack a kill spell. Hopefully that won't come back to bite us. I think we're going to open on Thoughtseize here, just prioritizing that in the blind, although this hand specifically does send a few more signals toward going Swiftie Bauble, but I still don't feel able to do that in the blind, so we're just going to Bauble the opponent to make our Thoughtseize that much more informed. Repeal. Okay, what is this, Bluetron or something? Well, let's find out. 2 repeals with a third coming off the top. Mox Amber. Ether Spellbomb. And Teth. Well, if they had only one repeal, I might actually take it. But at this stage, I actually don't know what to take. All their cards are kind of the same, except Mox Amber, which does nothing if we take Teferi, and Teferi himself, so I guess we're kind of obligated to take Teth, but he's somebody that we could relatively easily attack off the field, but everything they're doing just draws a card, right? So, kind of hard to say. Opponent's going to go, yep, Swamp Spellbomb. And we've drawn Thoughtseize off our Bauble, which is great, letting us go Swifty, Thoughtseize, and Bauble? Oh, right. This is exactly what we needed. Now we are getting really aggressive. We'll be able to deploy our threats ASAP, our black threats. This is just the type of thing we wanted to see. And we can even once again maximally inform this Thoughtseize with our Bauble. They're about to draw Emery. That makes a lot of sense. Kind of wish I could Thoughtseize her, right? Think we have to take Mox Amber so they can't cast Emery until further notice. It's also, once again, kind of the non-redundant piece of the hand. Oh, I'm sorry, I completely overlooked this Ether Spellbomb. They can cast Emery. Yep, I was just looking over here, not over here. My bad. But they don't. They're going to hold up Repeal. We're going to draw a Scourge. Oh, the Skyclaves. Okay, Swifty's been repealed. So we're going to cast a 2-drop here. Is a Goyf or a Scourge obviously better? Goyf is bigger right now. Scourge will get bigger pretty quickly. But I don't think it matters much either way. You know what? I think Scourge is maybe more likely to force some kind of a chump block with Emery. I'll still play the Scourge, even though Goyf is bigger on the first hit. Alright, we want to Fatal Land from the opponent. So we don't... No, they drew it. We didn't want them to be able to repeal the Scourge. That's really rough. Or, indeed, to, like, deploy Emery and then be able to hold up a repeal as well. Now we just want to draw a kill spell for Emery, because we'll slog our way through these repeals. They can also bounce with Ether Spellbomb. Wrenn and Six. I actually don't mind that. If we can't draw a kill spell, we might as well draw this. So that lets us make the 3rd land drop and then deploy a Shadow. But we have a deck full of kill spells. We can't let the Emery live for much longer. Definitely would have taken away the Emery with discard if I could have. It's a good thing our threats are so efficient, because the opponent has like a strangely amazing hand against us, and we've had some clunk issues. Opponent ripping the lands that they were missing for a little while here. So Emery buying back the Spellbomb. Then they'll main phase a repeal. I found Mox Amber. I think there's only 1 repeal left in their hand. Alright, kill spell for Emery? No, another Shadow. Well, I mean, just deploying all the threats that we have is definitely fine too. And I think I'm supposed to be extraordinarily aggressive with our fetching and shocking here. being kept at bay by their repeals pretty well, and by Emery, of course, more than anything. Okay, one Shadow's been repealed. They can definitely bounce the other two with Spellbomb, buy it back with Emery, Spellbomb again. However, whoa, they play another Emery? I guess they are looking to mill something else besides this stuff. Engineered explosives. That makes a lot of sense. It's a good mill target. Thankfully, it's almost a good thing that they repealed a Shadow last turn. That said, EE on 2 is still definitely a thing. But they're not going for that. They're going to repeal a Scourge going to tempo us out. And then they can still buy back EE if they want. But I could see them continuing to play the bounce game for a minute here. We'll see what they do. Okay, this card's in the graveyard, but I've been forgetting to look at it. Whenever the 4th spell of a turn is cast, flip it. And I have to turn my head upside down to read this. Whenever an opponent casts their first spell, each turn counter that spell. Wow, that is annoying in the context of this deck, isn't it? And now they buy back Mox Amber. Because they're trying to flip, and they do. And their last card was another repeal. They drew all 4 repeals. Oh my goodness. You couldn't make it up. Okay. We can still very easily win if we just draw a kill spell for Emery right now. And we do. So, we're going to play Swifty to get countered. Alright, we need Revolt. So, let's achieve that. Okay, Swifty to get countered. I think I'm supposed to make my Shadows 12/12s here. So I'm going to go to 1. Alright, Emery's done for. I don't think they have anything in their graveyard by itself, so why don't we just... It might technically be better to play 2 Shadows than a Shadow and a Scourge, even though it's not as mana efficient. I'm just worried enough about EE that I'm still going to play a Scourge here. But it's a little bit of a scared play. I won't deny it. What did they rip? Monastery Mentor. Okay, so they're not dead. And if we had played a Shadow, they would be dead. Alright, but now they're dead because we've drawn a kill spell. Very nice. So. We'll use a Goyf as our get countered lead. And we'll kill the Mentor. Alright, some removal off the top just in the nick of time. Opponent's deck is really, really interesting. It seems good against us because of the EE loops are devastating. Repeal, like, Ether Spellbomb, these cards are actually good against us. So we need to prioritize not getting looped out of the game. Spellbomb is a great way to do that. I don't know how good Seal of Primordium is because Emery can buy things back, but if we have enough ways to just simply kill Emery. Finally, Veil of Summer is like cute against repeal. And we could also play a Boil. There is a lot to consider. We could also play Assassin's Trophy for max removal, but that's obviously a little clunky. I guess we should consider all of these cards. Probably only one Boil, but maybe both too. Why not? Consider both. Not going to play... I mean, even Kozilek's Return, actually, because they're a Monastery Mentor deck as well. It's not the worst, but that I will not play. There's no way we even have slots for these 10 cards, but I'm definitely siding out TBR here. I wonder if it's correct to, like, side out Scourges, you know, because we're probably supposed to declunk as much as we can, and Goyf is going to be huge in this matchup, whereas Scourge could rot in hand in crucial times, so I think I'm just going to side out all of my Scourges and let the record state. You could debate that one, no doubt. But I think I like Swifty a little better here. We've now got 6 slots, so what about 1 Boil, all 3 spell bombs, and then 3 of these? I'm going to hedge. I'm going to play a single Veil of Summer, because a lot of their stuff is artifacts and will not be hit by this, but hitting Repeal is good. It could also hit Permission. I'm going to play 1 of these effects, Deglamer or Seal. I'm not sure which is better. Deglamer is better in a vacuum, but Seal is a good loopable win con or oppression condition with Lurrus. I'm going to just play a Deglamer, play a single trophy. We are going to submit a hedged list and see how it goes, and we're leaving all of our removal spells in, because Emery and Monastery Mentor can both run away with the game, and then there's more maybe that we don't know about, right? This is a solid hand. Bolt, Thoughtseize, Shadow, Swifty, 3 lands. I will definitely keep it. The one thing our opponents have not done is mulliganed, I think, at all. But fortunately, our deck has been so powerful that we've been able to disrupt and close the games anyway. Hope that's true here in Game 2 of Round 3. Opponent running out Ether, Spellbomb, Mishra's Bauble. Presumably going to bauble us on the upkeep. Yep, so they know about our Goyf. I definitely want a Thoughtseize here, rather than Swifty, as much as I would love to play the Swifty. Alright, they have EE. They have a 1-lander. They have EE, Erayo, Mox Amber, and Mentor. What a fascinating position this is. I wish I knew what their top deck was, right? I don't think I'm taking EE. As good as it can be against us. Erayo and Mentor both die to Bolt, but we only have 1 removal spell, so I should probably take 1. I think I'm just going to take Erayo here. But that's a little bit of a weird play in a couple senses. Number 1, they're not necessarily that close to flipping it. Number 2, it's a 1/1. It dies to everything, including a Wrenn and Six ping. Like, can you imagine being able to ping that with Wrenn? That'd be amazing. And I don't know if I talked about this, but yeah, we left the Wrens in for a couple reasons. That's one of them. Another reason is I think making all of our land drops is really huge here. Oh, they just rip Emery off the top. That's a disaster. So we obviously need to bolt that. And then, of course, Mentor is potentially in a position to take over. And then they have Unearth, but whoa. Oh my goodness. What a nut draw. Are you kidding? I don't know if we can beat that. That was nutty. Alright, well, once again, it's got to be Swifty as the sacrificial lamb here, I guess. Getting countered by Erayo, which is just ridiculous. And then we have to bolt Emery, because Emery will deterministically beat us if we don't. I cannot believe that. That was so insane. Well done, Dopey. It's definitely some spice. But, like, if they get this Mentor down, we're just, like, getting 2 for 1, I think, too often by Erayo if they get it down anytime soon. If we draw, like, a Bauble, I'll run that out and just play Shadow and Goyf, but we're just flooded. That really sucks. The one Good thing, I guess, about this is we can just put Lurrus into hand and have a productive turn in the face of a flipped Erayo. But feels like we lost to that absolutely nutty top deck of Emery into Unearth and the Missing Land. Those were the 3 cards that they found. Yeah, there's the Mentor. Big yikes. Big yikes. All right. Well, beginning next turn, we can actually do a lot of work with Lurrus. Like we could, for example, lead on Shadow, play the Lurrus, play the Shadow. It's not bad. We just, like, if they have anything relevant from here, they're still going to win. But we have a reason to keep playing, I think. And maybe they just flood. That'd be great. We've drawn Trophy. I like that a lot, but I think we're supposed to play for the high upside of Shadow, Lurrus, Shadow this turn, and then next turn we can go like Goyf to get countered, Trophy the Mentor, Goyf again. We need to fetch and shock to do this, though, because we need 4 black sources. I'm going to go for it, though. If they have, like, permission here or something, we're just toast. They don't. All right. Here we go. We have shown a way to beat the... What was this flipped on turn 2? Which is just insane. Something like that. Minor thing, but if I was going to do as I did, I maybe should have done it with Verdant Catacombs, because now we can't get Mountain. An opponent is at least a little bit flooded, but they do seem to have a spell for their last card, and it is a Repeal, which is kind of rough. Very rough, in fact. Now this turns off our Fetch Shock next turn, but that's okay. I mean, now that Shadow's back in hand, it's bad that it is, right? But at least that's something we can cast and then buy back. And then Trophy the Mentor. Kroxa as well, interesting. Note that opponent can repeal their own things, which is something to play around, I guess. What if we lead on Kroxa? That way we know whether it's safe to attack with Lurrus, I guess. But then, no, Kroxa will get countered. That's why we can't do that. What if we go Swifty from the graveyard to get countered, then Kroxa, then Shadow, and we can Trophy, but only if we connect with Lurrus for lifelink. So I don't know if we are really able to... Kroxa this turn all that safely. I'm just going to cast a trophy here and see what happens and take it from there. Alright. No other monk made, no prowess triggers gained. That's amazing. So now we can attack with Lurrus, and I think that means we'll get to do everything here. Hopefully I'm not walking into something. Okay. Let's make sure we have another fetchable. I think we do. We should, I just haven't been paying attention to, you know, what's getting milled and stuff like that. And even this is a little risky, because we could just die to, like, a nutty way to bounce the Shadow and attack for 2 with 2 prowess triggers off the monk, but I think this is the high upside play we should be making. But I would have maybe preferred to have been able to fetch a basic there. We just gotta fade, like, the perfect top deck from the opponent. Monastery Mentor, okay. Very beatable. We could cast Thoughtseize to get it countered. And then I guess just escape Kroxa, right? Or we could play Swifty to get countered, play another Swifty, escape Kroxa just to go that little bit wider and that be that much more value-oriented. I think we have to attack with Lurrus this time. Yep, I think this is fine. Oh, I'm dumb. I forgot I couldn't. Yeah, that was bad. I forgot I couldn't loop the Swifty a second time. You only get to do that once with Lurrus, of course, right? So that was just bad. Should have let on the Thoughtseize like I was talking myself into. But at least that we can have that in hand for next turn. Right? Okay, opponent putting all their faith in the Mentor, which you do understand. That is the concession. All right, guys, we're 3-0 through some fascinating matchups. This deck is insane. Alan, great choice, my friend. Thanks for working with me on this one, and thank you for suggesting the archetype in the first place. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm doing a lot of new things that hopefully I'm executing well and making right decisions. Opponent's deck is off the chain interesting. Erayo, Soratami Ascendant's Essence. How often do you see these Kamigawa flip cards? This is the build around. There's a lot of really powerful stuff here to like, and we are fortunate enough to get there. Despite the opponent having a bit of a nut draw against us, especially here in Game 2, but frankly, both progressions were really scary, but our deck performed well, and they did flood in the wake of their nut draw a bit, for sure. So, good times, my friends. I am doing, hopefully, Shadow things to a decent degree. I think my mid-range instincts are serving us well. It's where you navigate the life total of the Shadow, as I've said, especially in those mirrors that I felt a little less certain. But you guys will always let me know what you think, and we'll move on to round 4. Round 4. Here comes that kitty cat. Ooh, this is our least balanced hand. Triple Fatal Push, Temur Battle Rage, and Thoughtseize. Given the way this league is going, and also given the way the meta is, I actually think I'm supposed to keep it. Doesn't have a threat, and if they don't play cards that die to Fatal Push, we're in big, big trouble. But if they do, it'll be hard to lose. And I think certainly more decks right now are dying to Fatal Push than are ignoring it. So let's do the Shadow thing. And we do have a high threat density. You know, we've got, 16 premier threats? And we're against Soul Herder, I guess, Ephemerate, Path to Exile, Skyclave Apparition, Wall of Omens. So this is stuff that's dying to removal, but in a really annoying way, I guess. Like in the sense that Wall will draw a card, for example. The game's going to go long. I'm going to take Ephemerate. I don't want them to loop that card, which is a good way to bury us when the game is indeed going long. We draw a Goyf right off the top. That's a lovely thing, because this is big enough to put a lot of pressure on. And if they're priced into pathing it, well, then we get our third land, and we've beaten their path. Thoughtseize. Alright, so if we Thoughtseize away... We have a couple options here. We can just push the wall and grow the Goyf and also attack with the Goyf that way. We could also Thoughtseize away Skyclave Apparition, which might not be bad, or another creature, and either way the Goyf will be bigger than the wall. So I think I'm supposed to do that, but it is a little close. Oh, Uro? Oh, fantastic. Just what I wanted to see. Ah, I'm tilted. I'm instantaneously tilted. I'm going to take him away because we have the pushes to beat Apparition more cleanly. Yep, that's a bit of a rough one. Obviously, we need to manage to get Revolts for push to be live here, right? But we're reaching the point where almost literally any draw is live. But they're not going to go for the Apparition, probably because we didn't take it, right? Let's update the hand. I guess there's maybe... There were 2 Flooded Strands, so there's still 1 in hand, 1 unknown in the opponent's hand. Okay, OP Path's Goyf right on time for us to put Lurrus into hand. Feels good. We are still at every risk of getting ground out by Uro, though. So let's draw our main deck Spellbomb, maybe, would be pretty sweet. We've drawn Kroxa. Hey, Kroxa can compete with Uro, at least. Alright, I'm going to cast him. Our hand is shaping up in a very awkward manner, though. Oh, opponent found another path, really? Now that one hurts. That one hurts a whole lot. So our triple push keep, admittedly not exactly paying off, but we get the Skyclave Apparition out of there. I'm still supposed to hang on to these pushes, though. Especially if they go for, like, an Ephemerate on the wall, we want to be able to get rid of that. But really, we all know what's happening. Uro is coming, and that's just great. That's just absolutely fantastic. Yep, we needed Nihil Spellbomb. We needed to find our main deck Nihil Spellbomb, I think, to win this game. Or to mulligan to a different hand, maybe. I'm going to give them an opportunity to tap out, but just for the sake of being efficient, I think I'm supposed to push the wall on the end step here, even if they don't do anything else. Which is really annoying, but there you go. Alright, they're sixth. Come on, something. Something good to loop with Lurrus, maybe. Oh, Scourge of the Skyclaves is actually really pretty bad here. It's going to get shrunk down to 1 by that Uro, but I will play it. Yep, Uro gonna solo us. I'm gonna throw up a chump block here. It gives us something to do in a couple different ways. We get to generate Revolt for Fatal Push, and next turn we get to play Lurrus and buy back the Scourge. Mystic Sanctuary for Ephemerate. I'm going to try a push in response, because who knows if they can draw at instant speed. But let's just go for it now. Alright. So Ephemerate. Well, let's see if they even want to put this on the top anymore. Something I didn't quite think about, because it does now compete with Uro for... But yeah, they do. Draw a Scourge. Well, it's not really doing anything different for us that we couldn't already do. So, kind of a bad draw. But let's play Lurrus. Play the other Scourge from the graveyard, of course. Hope they don't have another Uro in hand. Because if they do, we're just done for. I don't know what else they could have besides just being flooded. Skyclave Apparition. That makes some sense. You know, if they didn't have Path for our Kroxa, it could be a very interesting situation. They can now blink Skyclave Apparition at their will, but I guess they don't feel a need to do it right away. We've drawn Wrenn. Whatever, I guess so. I suppose so. Yeah, why don't we pick up a land here? You know, starting to ping them is actually kind of live, but I want to be able to have Revolt if need be. It's just, if these Scourges were Shadows, we'd actually be in a super intriguing and competitive spot, I think. Of course, who knows what they're holding on to in hand, right? Just gonna let that attack through. I don't mind if they slowly kill their Wrenn over 3 turns, right? Alright, I'm just gonna thin the deck here. And work toward a potentially kicked Scourge. We draw Inquisition. Okay, I like that well enough to not kick a Scourge this turn, so let's pick the land back up, put it back down, then we'll Inquisition. We can push in response to an Ephemerate with Revolt here, if we want. But all of this trading is it's just so not good, because the Uro's just going to come back, right? I mean, we're kind of walking into the Uro, I guess, but you know, literally, what else can we do here? They've got another something to do. They've just got Cryptic Command? Okay. Yep. I should probably concede here, right? Maybe not. Eternal Witness and another Ephemerate. What a tilt to run into a deck like this. A Bant Pile. A Bant Pile if I've ever seen one. Alright. I almost think we should take Ephemerate here. Well, they get to rebound that one anyway. Uro's coming back either way. So I was thinking maybe Eternal Witness competes with Uro, but remember the other Ephemerate is on rebound, which is... oh, man. Guys, I promise I'm not tilting just because it looks like we're losing this one. You saw me think that we were going to lose other ones and be totally fine with it. It's the play style I can't stand. Anyway, I think I'm still going to take the Witness. Like, buying back Cryptic is just another thing we can't beat, right? And I can't play the Scourge into Uro, who will just kill it with life gain. So let's just say go. I'd rather have the Illusion token that they gave us, honestly. And now they get to Ephemerate and take care of their Wrenn, if they want. But again, maybe a 2-2 Illusion is literally better than our permanents. But yeah, Uro, a bit of a match breaker, you have to say. Not exactly certain what our outs are, if any, at this stage. Verdant Catacombs is not one of them. Alright, I'm going to concede. I can't have any fun against this match under these circumstances, so let's just move on. And we will once again be really interested in these spell bombs. One thing I don't remember if I mentioned in the deck tech, I guess I'll mention it now. We were considering, basically we came to a 61 card list that was awesome, and we had to cut either the main deck spell bomb or a second Seal of Fire. The Discord voted to cut the Seal, number 2, and play the main deck spell bomb. What a great choice that has been. Not that it saved us there, but in general, you see how well-positioned Spellbomb is. We've brought it in every single time. I want to boil this deck out of existence, and otherwise, I'm not sure what else we want. Veil of Summer beats Cryptic Command, but it doesn't do much else against, their blink threats and everything, drawing a card, and of course the hated Uro. Assassin's Trophy, I guess we have to play all removal, but that one feels pretty bad in this matchup compared to alternatives. I will once again just cut TBR. They can play blink tricks. They're a path deck. It's not really the matchup for it. And then, once again, I'm thinking that I might lean away from Scourge. I don't know if we're supposed to cut all 4, but I could really justify doing so. I think that might be the play. At least like 2, and, we could trim a discard spell or 2, but I think we need to hope the discard spells line up well. And, discard is a way to beat Path, which is a way to make up for going down on threats. So let's cut a 3rd one. Do we want to, leave Seal of Fire out, or maybe cut a Bolt and leave Seal? I don't know. I don't know. We're going to play without Scourge of the Skyclaves. The card's awesome. This has not been the best league for it, though. Right? But we're playing more of a disruptive controlling game. This hand doesn't have a threat either, but it's better than our game 1 keep. I think I like it. This is kind of the type of plan we sideboarded into. Even though every card we see is present in the main deck. Yeah, I think this is a keep. Our Bauble will reveal Eternal Witness off the top. Okay, and our Inquisition reveals their 2-land 7 with Coatl, Path, Double Apparition, Wall of Omens. Taking a Coatl or a Wall, probably. I'll take the Snake. But, you know, in case we draw Wrenn, maybe we're supposed to take the Wall. Whatever. Draw another Inquisition, that's good. We like that under these circumstances. We don't like another land quite so much. But we're going to threaten a Lurrus Spellbomb loop, I guess, if nothing else. With this type of progression, which could be good against what they're up to, so... Their hand is so ridiculously good. The one play is to take the Wall and hope they never draw that third land. But that's probably not correct. So I'm just going to take Eternal Witness. We're going to take all their 2-for-1s. And yes, Spellbomb can beat a Witness, but we're, again, thinking about the long game here. I think we have no choice but to think about the long game with our no-threat hand. Even though their hand wants us to think about the short game. You know, does that make sense? I kind of knew we were just going to draw another land. So I'm just going to continue thinning the deck as aggressively as possible, which is the only thing I can do in the face of this flood and this awful matchup. And we'll put good old Lurrus into hand and hope the opponent just misses that third land drop, right? Whoa, they missed the third land drop, but they can still path their Wall. Nevertheless, it's good for us. And if we play Lurrus, we're kind of forcing them to path the Lurrus, right? So let's do that, buy back a Bauble while we can, get a nice X for 1, and see where their path is going to be pointed. If they pointed at their Wall, we can now Dismember in response, because they didn't do it at a certain time. And I think I might, but now they're going to path Lurrus. Makes sense. They're just assuming to draw the third land, and I think that's a pretty valid assumption in their deck. Sure, it plays a high land count, and I'm sure they've got all kinds of other low curve draw effects to hit. Such as that one. Alright, Miracle, no third land. Still no third land, let's go. Alright, let's see what's coming off the top of their library. Ephemerate. Alright, that makes me want to hold up Dismember. We're just going to crack Spellbomb because we need to find action here. We have found a Bloodstained Mire, a Nurturing Peatland, and a Lightning Bolt. A collection of really bad cards under these circumstances. Let's immediately crack Peatland. We found Bauble, sure. Yeah, so play a Tarmogoyf. Tapping green is advised if you're trying to play a Tarmogoyf. Play a Bauble. That was like the worst possible time to do a Bauble. I should have main phased it if I wanted another card for this turn, or I should have just waited till their end step if I wasn't going to main phase it. Opponent being patient with that Ephemerate. We've drawn Wrenn and Six, so we can now loop Peatland, which is really, really cool. We could also ping a wall after it assigns a block if we want to do that for one turn before we start looping. I think I'm supposed to do that. Oh, they have Ether Gust for the Wrenn, huh? Interesting. Interesting spot. I think we're supposed to top the Wrenn. It's gonna ping some of their stuff, but not their apparitions, admittedly. And again, it lets us loop Peatland. Yeah, I'm gonna top here. And then I'm gonna bolt this wall. Which we could have done main phase to beat it in combat, but again, they were holding up Ephemerate. Okay, opponent about to draw the third land. You hate to see it. There is now a tension between Ephemerate and Apparition, though, right? Or not with Teferi. Oh, man, oh, man. All right. I think for the sake of efficiency, I'm supposed to dismember in response, because we're going to get really mono-hungry going forward with Peatland loops and so forth. I don't know if I fetched coherently or not. Now Wrenn can ping Tef. And once again, we put off for a turn the idea of looping Peatland, and I'm just going to stress test them by hopefully double spelling every turn while they're land screwed, but they draw the fourth land, so they're not. And now they can hold up Ephemerate, or even just use Ephemerate right now if they want. If they want to test us for a bolt here or push, which is really annoying. Speaking of really annoying, we top deck another fetch land. The Peatland loop is definitely something, though. Opponent going to do their Ephemerate in response. Now they're going to call us out for removal. Although, I guess maybe there were slightly better windows for it. So we do have Revolt, but whatever. So the ability to beat them with the lines that we've taken is contingent on us actually drawing action. When we've drawn literal only fetch land since we started on this path. So, good times. That really sucks. And there's not even any shock lands to fetch. And now Apparition can beat Wrenn. And there goes our looping capabilities. I literally can't believe this card was printed. It's such a disaster. And I know it's not like Breaking Modern, but like, why does it have Rebound? Why does it have Rebound? I'm not exaggerating when I say I would rather lose against any of the other decks we played than win a long match against this deck. We draw only lands. All right, my friends. There goes our dreams of a debut 5-0 at the hands of what else? An Uro Pile. A Bant Pile in this case. I'm tempted to hit the reveal hand button, but I don't typically do that unless the opponent does it first. So it doesn't really matter necessarily if the opponent has a fail rate, as they did here, a really severe one. We took a line that did not maximize the fail rate. They still experienced it. They were stuck on 2 lands for God knows how long. Didn't matter. Everything they do just kind of beats us. So there you go. We definitely did have progressions that could beat that progression, but on average, I don't think we're supposed to really come anywhere near, making this a 50-50 match. And that's too bad, because our deck's really cool, and I have a different view of their deck. But the opponent played well, and we got wrecked comprehensively. Nevertheless, we already cashed the league last round, right? So let's try to finish strong and go for that 4-1. Not doing so hot on the old die rolls, but our opening hands continue to be mostly impressive. This is a good balanced hand. I wish it had a discard spell, but it is a keep in a blind for sure. Lightning Bolt is a card we haven't seen enough of, as I've mentioned once or twice this league. Here's an example of how it can make like a otherwise mono threats hand. It can really enable it even if we don't have a good bolt target on the opposing board, right? Opponent fetching a Godless Shrine off of a Marsh Flats and going Thoughtseize, so this could be Deadguy Ale. That'd be pretty cool. They take Swifty. Interesting. All right. Let's Bauble ourselves here. Verdant Catacombs off the top. I think we're supposed to fetch that one away. So let's fetch and shock a Blood Crypt, get a different fresh draw, and then on the opponent's upkeep, we'll Bauble them. We don't want to make their discard any better. They're obviously playing it. Tidehollow Sculler. Okay, that's going to be a good turn 2 play for them. That's what they're going to go for, I bet. Or not. Not if they have a 1-lander. I see. Okay. Well, that's obviously good for us. And we have 2 bolts. So now there's an incentive for sure to hold up bolts because, but we don't need to. We want to take the front foot here. We have a base red hand right now, so I'm going to fetch Stomping Ground. And yeah, I'm going to get this Scourge down. Hopefully they're not playing Cling to Dust main deck. It's always the risk playing that over Goyf, but okay, push, sure. So it's probably Sculler now, but thankfully we've drawn another bolt to cleanly take care of it. Can still play the Goyf, and we're still curving up toward eventually putting Lurrus into hand. TBR is a less exciting draw for sure in this matchup. We've drawn another Scourge. And they take Goyf, just basically making sure we get priced into bolting this, I guess. And we're certainly not going to mess around. We're going to do that main phase, and let's just put the Goyf back down. Scourge might be slightly better, but this conceals information, which is worth something as well. And if they have yet more removal, which is definitely one thing they could have, maybe we now want Scourge to be the final threat that we stick when the dust settles. Opponent with a Stoneforge Mystic, so they know about our Lightning Bolt. But they get Batter Skull, again, just kind of pricing us into bolting here. Which we will. Alright, let's see if the opponent can beat us here. Can you beat our board? They cannot. Alright, a nice easy game 1 win against what is probably a pretty interesting and close matchup in the form of Deadguy Ale, but I think they mulliganed. Don't quote me on that. I think they mulliganed in either way. Whether or not they mulliganed, it was a 1-lander, so that's where we won. They were too clunky, too slow. Hey, maybe if you saw my recent Deadguy list, I talked a lot about how you can build Deadguy to mitigate the low card quality. I think that probably excludes playing Tidehollow Sculler to some degree. And you can also build it to mitigate the clunk. Anyway, we have a lot to do here. A lot to do. all of these cards are playable, but it's going to be, once again, about not overboarding and not having, realizing that we have a lot of cards that are, very few cards that are bad is what I'm trying to say. It'd help if my client let me move cards around too. We're a little laggy, so I'm just going to do nothing for a moment, let us catch back up, and I guess we'll talk about this. Veil of Summer, awesome. Assassin's Trophy, again, feels a little worse mostly than alternatives could if we were on a BGX deck, but still going to come in. Spellbomb, because I assume Lingering Souls, but maybe we don't need all three until we know more. Seal of Primordium and Deglamer to beat the equipment, and also those kill Tide Hollow Sculler crucially. Alright, apparently we're able to bring stuff in now. And I also think I should play a Kozilek's Return, maybe even two, because they beat Auric Champion, and that could be in the deck. It's also just like going to kill everything they play, besides like if stuff is equipped or if they've got the Batterskull down, right? So I think I want like a second Spellbomb and 1k Return in theory. We'll see if we have room for all this though. Like, once again, maybe we were just cutting like Scourge, or in this case it could be Swifty or Goyf. I think we should get a little bit lighter on threats. Maybe a couple Swifty, a couple Scourge. It's a little arbitrary to do that. And then like 2 Thoughtseizes, or maybe 1 Thoughtseize, 1 Inquisition, because I wouldn't mind Thoughtseizing a Batterskull some of the time. If they play a card like Gideon. I think everything else we're doing here is great. There could also be a risk that they're on Rest in Peace, and therefore our Spellbombs are bad and our Goyfs are bad, but I don't think that's likely on average. So let's see what this yields. This game too, and we'll take it from there. And we have a absolute nutty 7 if it had even a single land. We have to send it back, because it does not. This looks okay. I think I'm just going to bottom a Shadow and go full interactive mode. Try to unmulligan myself by sticking a Wrenn. But looks like they probably have turn 1 discard, so the Wrenn will not stick unless they feel obligated to take our Thoughtseize away. Indeed, Wrenn does not stick. So, we're going to go get our good old Blood Crypt. Thoughtseize OP right back. They have Apparition, Bob, Push. I will take the Bob even though we have a way to beat it. Don't want to be priced into trophying them quite so early if I can help it. We draw a Goyf. That I'm going to run out. If we had drawn a land, I would have done nothing here. I'm going to run out the Goyf, realizing that our play here is to eventually, of course, stick a Shadow. And trading a Goyf for a push under those circumstances is okay. We also can make Skyclave Apparition really clunky for them. It's another thing I talked about in the... Ooh, they draw a Mystic. Yikes. Go get Batterskull. Alright, well now we kind of have to trophy the skull. But we draw another Wrenn, which is fantastic. So we don't mind them cheating in the skull, because of course we want to trophy it. If we trophy the Mystic, we're getting them just 1 land drop away from hard casting the skull anyway, right? So Wrenn was a fantastic draw. We really needed that 3rd land. And now we will give them 2 Apparition targets and the tension between doing Apparition and flashing in the skull. So it's all good. I'm going to get a second black-green land in case we end up cracking Peatland or looping it. I don't want to be greenless. Ooh, opponent drew a Fatal Push. That's really bad. It's really bad for us. We were hoping to really tempo them out this turn by having given them too much to think about, but their push was crucial in us not doing that. But they still do have the tension of, do we hold up SFM or do we play Apparition? And they're going to hold up SFM. And we have a Fatal Push too. All right, that's pretty good. And importantly, our Wrenn gets to stick around. I think we're still just like aggressively fetching Shocking here. And also aggressively playing out the shadows. I think opponent knows about the trophy, but not about the push, but I could be wrong. Alright, Batterskull has been answered. I think we're supposed to save the push for their Skyclave Apparition. Even though that means letting Stoneforge Mystic, like, potentially flash in a sword, or if they play a second copy at Batterskull, that'd be really bad, but I don't think that's very common, especially in Deadguy. An opponent is just attacking us. I mean, they've already beaten 2 shadows, so you get that. If they had done this main phase, we could have pushed the Apparition during attacks and then killed the Stoneforge potentially in combat. That would have been cool. Give me that illusion token, my friend. Opponent only 1 card in hand. We're about to put Lurrus into hand if we have nothing better to do, and turns out we have nothing better to do. I think I'm going to fetch to thin, then crack a Peatland, and then put Lurrus into hand if we have nothing else. We found another Peatland. Got it. Alright, I'm playing defense with this illusion for the moment. Awkward position, to be sure. OP with a Kaya Orzhov Usurper. Yikes, so they can kill our illusion, or they can get rid of 2 threats out of the graveyard. They do the latter. Target Wrenn and Goyf, huh? Veil of Summer. Seems like a pretty good draw. Not gonna lie. Alright, let's begin by attacking Kaya with the illusion. The time has come to turn the illusion sideways, my friends. Stoneforge Mystic gets thrown under the bus. We get to buy back a shadow, and I kind of don't know why they didn't get rid of the shadows here, but we'll take it. And now we get to veil their Fatal Push. Let's go. And we draw Lightning Bolt, which could be very good. Alright, so opponent's Kaya is still going to exile. Yeah, they exile the shadow, sure. But have they found something else good? Ah, they have Tidehollow Sculler. That's a really good find for them. This is a really good find for them. Let's just draw Seal of Fire. Monastery Swiftspear. Alright. Well, we can, I guess, crack Peatland first, see what we find. Sure. Nihil Spellbomb. So we can play Swifty Spellbomb Shadow. Seems good. Seems really good. Get that prowess trigger. Send 2 attackers at Kaya. Don't have to send Lurrus in. It's all good. Illusion token OP. And we're not even... Okay, they'll trade with the illusion and keep the Kaya around to -1 or +1 as the case may be. And we're not even afraid, even if they'd let it through, of a top deck sword, because they wouldn't have the 5th land to both cast and equip it and then one-shot us with, like, Feast and Famine or something. Alright, so now we've got a couple Lurrus loops, well, 1 Lurrus loop available with Spellbomb. We've got Lightning Bolt in hand, we've got a gigantic Shadow. We've got a wide board. There's so much to like. Being at 3 life is a little sketchy, but even that we can lifelink with Lurrus, and alright, opponent will cash in the Kaya to exile our Shadow. Importantly, exiling it. But what is their draw step yielded? It has yielded Lily of the Veil. Very beatable. Very good card against us, but very beatable, and they choose to tick up, which is a smart play. I like our opponent's style here. But we do have this Lurrus inevitability looking fabulous. We just draw a Shadow. Yeah, seems okay. Seems okay, right? We draw a Bolt too. Wow. Is there anything we don't have? The answer is no. So we play the Spellbomb, play a Shadow, hold up Bolt, and attack Lily off the field. Didn't need the prowess to do that, but we're wasting that prowess trigger either way, and that is just fine. We could get cute and, like, hold the Bolt until they tick up, but let's just get rid of Lily. And we're back up to a slightly safer life total. Not that we need to be against this deck, but that's the concession. All right, guys. Wow. Wow. What an epic result. What an epic crushing, frankly, of Deadguy Ale in the final round. And, of course, the only thing that spoils the debut 5-0 was a Bant Uro Pile. Not that Bant has much to do with it, it's just because it's an Uro Pile, although the whole Ephemerate Soul Herder package not really doing us any favors either. Anyway, let's do a little bit of a wrap-up here, but this was a heck of a Jund Shadow debut league, wouldn't you say? Alright, my friends, so this was our debut Jund Shadow League. I really like this archetype right now. I really like blueless Shadow decks, and I think the blue decks have the highest skill cap, and it's most important to manage your Shadow's life total with those. For somebody who's not an experienced Shadow player, but is an experienced mid-range player, these BRX decks, the Rakdos or Jund Shadow decks that play red cards to enable Shadow and Scourge, and go along a more aggressive game plan, but also, by necessity of being base black, have a lot of mid-range style play patterns and exist in a space kind of between mid-range and Shadow, or mid-range and prowess even. This is definitely right up my alley, and these cards are so powerful right now. We also leverage Lurrus so disgustingly well, and Lurrus is still overpowered. Lurrus is still ridiculously good as a companion, or sometimes in main decks of certain lists too, right? But we beat the almost direct mirror in the form of Rakdos Shadow, Rakdos Scourge. We beat a Shadow pseudo-mirror by taking down Grixis, and in round 5, we beat a black-based mid-range mirror by taking down Deadguy Ale. In round 3, we also beat a really interesting deck, the Emery Repeal deck with Erayo, or however you say it, as a kind of lock piece. our deck was able, on the back of Lurrus maybe more than anything else, to win through a flipped Erayo twice, including, I think, one on turn 2, or maybe turn 3 in the second game. These matches were all really fun. These matches were all really intensive, skill testing. I think they made for good content. This is how Modern should be. Round 4, I insist, is how Modern should not be. And it's not because we lost, and it's not because we have a bad matchup. Those play patterns are horrid to me, no matter what type of deck I'm playing. And yes, I mostly play mid-range, and yes, they're very good against mid-range, but I hate playing against all those blink effects and everything, drawing a card, and Uro more than anything, and Little Tef and all the rest. When I'm on prowess, when I'm on combo, when I'm doing literally anything, it's just really unfun. Fire design, that is the example of fire design. All of those cards coming together, it's very, very bad. But I'm not trying to dunk on Wizards here or really have an overall broad-ranging or all-permeating critique of recent design. Scourge of the Skyclaves is incredible design on every single level. It's cool. The name is great. The art is cool. It's got an amazing design as far as rules are concerned, and it indeed is a brand new design that sends shockwaves through the format in a good way. It's sending good incentives throughout this format, if you ask me. Maybe I'll do an entire video on why Scourge of the Skyclaves is my most recent favorite printing, or I should say my most favorite recent printing. Let's put it that way. I am tempted the more and more I face those Uro decks just to play more and more boils. Like, I'm not interested in playing an actual game against them. I just want to boil them out or not and lose. Like, just that there are better uses of my time than that, right? And also the matchups are bad enough that increasingly it does seem foolhardy to try to play a fair game and expect to get anywhere with that. I sound tilted. I'm actually not. I'm feeling amazing, but that is how, that is where my thought process is with those types of decks. I maintain that we need to ban Veil of Summer, which we're using here, +1. Either Uro or Field of the Dead. More and more people seem to be saying Field of the Dead. I would still personally choose Uro if it was between the two, but mark me down as a consistent and dedicated opponent of that type of deck, that type of design. Similar things are happening to Legacy too. Now that said, our archetype is very, very strong too, and our archetype is about as present in the format as the piles. But our archetype is healthy, right? It doesn't mean it couldn't potentially be too powerful at some point, but the incentives are good here. You can play most things, besides maybe ultra-linear combo decks, into a shadow meta, and be able to tech for it and have a chance against it. And a lot of lesser tier strategies that go a little bit slower can thrive against this stuff. Whereas if you're not going under Uro, you're just going to lose to it. Or maybe occasional exceptions for big mana or for really weird, dedicated lock decks, prison decks, you understand. But for most 80+% of decks, if you're not going under Uro decks, you will just lose to them almost always. And that's the type of incentive that we don't want to see in the format. Anyway, enough about that. What do we think about this list in this league? Like I said, all 4 matches that were not against Uro decks were thrilled to pilot. They were a joy, they were fun, and we came out on top in all of them. That was great. We had some pretty decent progressions. We had some pretty strong opening hands, but I think we also mulliganed maybe 3 times in the league. Our opponents only mulliganed once total, so it's not like we were getting any free wins in that regard either. The deck is just really coherent, really strong. Tarmogoyf definitely adds an interesting threat quality and threat density to the deck that I do like. We didn't really see Goyf be a big factor here today, though. Wrenn and Six, on the other hand, was completely amazing, as it always is. This card is low-key busted too, or maybe even not so low-key busted, and it's definitely, I think, the most unfair card in this shell. And you saw that even though nominally we're a deck with Swifty and with lightning bolts and with scourges and shadows, we want to go fast, Wrenn and Six is so justifiable in here. I absolutely love it. The green sideboard tech looked pretty good too. trophy, it's nice to have a critical mass of removal that is a catch-all. Veil of Summer was just as disgustingly good as you could usually expect it to be. And I like having access to at least one. In this case, I registered 2 of these Deglamer or Seal of Primordium style effects. Couldn't decide whether I liked the shuffle ability of Deglamer, which is really relevant now, better than the loop possibility of Seal. So I did one of each, and that worked out, I think, well for us. In theory. In practice, we didn't really need them. So yeah, that is basically my thoughts on the list. I think Alan, I think you and I came to a really good list, so shout out to you, my friend. This one's for you. Shout out to the Discord people who chimed in as well. If you have any thoughts on how to tweak the list, I'd love to hear them. I would love also to run this one back. I would love to run this and or the Rakdos version with Bomat Courier, which I haven't tried yet, back. Hopefully we do those things in the near future. I'm also still pretty hyped about good old Rock with Lurrus as companion, or with Lurrus in the main deck. I think Rock is kind of well positioned in the meta if you can fade the piles, and can beat decks like this as well. So those are my parting thoughts on the meta and on the league. Thank you once again to Alan Lambert and to all Patreon supporters as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. This was a really fun one to play, and I will see you, I hope, for that next video. Hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up. Those are some free ways to support the content. If you have the money and you are so inclined and you would also like access to our lovely Discord, you can always join Patreon as well. You can even earn donation leagues just like this one. So thanks again, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.